We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Monday. No, Sunday. It's Sunday. And we are doing another Substack Live. And okay, I just want to make sure I got this right. It's Sunday today, Monday tomorrow. But if you're listening on the podcast, you're listening on Monday. I got to tell you what, when you get fucking old and you're retired, you don't know what day it is ever. Every day is like fucking Saturday, which is a nice thing, but it sometimes confuses you. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I did a TikTok live a while back. I've had a number of guests on. I got more guests coming up. On this particular podcast, we're going to do a Substack live, and I love doing these Substack lives because I get to do it by myself. Not that I don't like having guests, but sometimes it's just nice to chill out a little bit and talk to some of the folks in the audience. I don't always get to do that during the TikTok live, so this is a great opportunity to hear from some of you folks. Spacer says back again. Hello, Mike. Spacer, I don't know what I'd do without you. You help me get through these things. Actually, all of you do. When I do a live like this, it's important that people show up and they participate, because then they got shit to talk about, okay? So I appreciate you guys showing up. And we do have a lot of things to talk about. Certainly anything you want to talk about, just bring it up, make the comment, ask the question, whatever, and we'll go off on that tangent if need be. But I want to talk about the news at hand, the things that people are talking about. What's up with Donald Trump? Is he sick? Is he okay? Is he still alive? I think it's fair to say that he's probably still alive, but this motherfucker is not looking good. He's not looking good. For a few days, nobody's heard from him. He's not been in front of the media, which is weird for Donald Trump. Wouldn't have been weird for Joe Biden, but it was weird, or is weird, for Donald Trump. And then just yesterday, they put out this picture. It's a grainy picture, looks kind of weird, and I thought it was strange because nobody's ever released just still pictures of Donald Trump. It's not hard to get Donald Trump in front of the fucking cameras. And then they show the video. And that was interesting, too, because the video was shot from a long distance, and you see him coming out of the White House or whatever building going to a car. But the thing about it is now people are saying that these are old videos and an old picture. Why is that? Now, we haven't heard much from Donald Trump, save for Truth Social. And I will say this, Donald Trump did come out and make a response regarding his health and his mortality. He made this Truth Social post. He says, "Never felt better in my life. Also, D.C. is crime-free zone. President DJT." Now, we know he's a pathological liar, so whatever he says there doesn't mean anything. We don't even know that he wrote it necessarily. But what I thought was telling was, this is the whole Truth Social post. Never felt better in my life. Also, D.C. is crime-free zone. President DJT. Donald Trump never puts out Truth Socials that's short. They're usually rambling and fucking crazy. This is just a couple lines. That's weird for him. All right, Spacer says, it makes me wonder if Trump has... Hold on. It makes me wonder if Trump has people around him trying to avail to rein in his unhealthy habits. This reminds me of the moments where we dissect videos of Kim Jong-un or Putin and seeing if they're close to the ground. That is a good point. There are people around him probably trying to rein him in, whether it be politically, whether it be rhetorically or his rhetoric. Or whether it be what he eats. But here's the thing with a narcissist. They're not going to listen to shit. They know better than everybody. Someone says, boy, if you eat all this stuff all the time, you're going to die. Donald Trump would say, no, I'm not. I'm going to do what the fuck I want because I'm the king. I'm the ruler. So I'm sure Donald Trump isn't taking too much advice. Had he been taking advice, he wouldn't have made some of the mistakes that he made recently. So it's going to be interesting coming into this next week because a lot of shit's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of occasions where Donald Trump is going to want to step in front of the cameras, and we'll see if he does. I don't know if you heard too, there was a car accident involving Rudy Giuliani. He was pretty seriously hurt, cracked vertebrae or something like that. He's in the hospital now recovering. Don't really care. I think that Rudy's probably not long for this earth either. And good riddance. He is an absolute piece of shit. He started out as this hero of a mayor for New York City after 9/11. Then he became a total creep and a totally corrupt motherfucker. So hopefully he doesn't get better. Hopefully it's painful for him. Rose says, I believe he's getting ready to meet his maker, the devil. Well, that's distinctly possible. If there is a heaven and earth, Donald Trump can't buy his way into that. He's already set that tone. He's going to go to wherever he goes, and I guarantee it's not going to be as pleasant as Mar-a-Lago. James, the day of reckoning is beginning for all of them. You make a good point. That's something I've often said, and that's something that Will, who's on the show frequently, has said. We're coming up to a reckoning. Now, think about what's going on right now. Donald Trump is able to do all these things, and he's got all his minions doing them for him. Now, once there's a switch in power and the Democrats take control, there is going to be a reckoning for all this criminality and this corruption. If Donald Trump is no longer on the mortal coil, they're going to blame and hold somebody accountable. And that's going to be the likes of Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and Lutnick and Besant and all these fuckers. Somebody's going to have to pay the price. And whether Donald Trump is alive or dead, there's going to be a reckoning. There is going to be investigations. There's going to be prosecutions. And if you think, well, hey, they're never going to go to jail or go to court because they got money and they're connected. Well, that may or may not be true, but if you're old enough to remember Richard Nixon and the whole Watergate thing, a lot of people went to jail there, including the Attorney General, Mitchell. You remember that? So Pam Bondi's not clear. She may be head of the DOJ at this point, but when that's over, she's going to have problems because she's done some pretty criminal and corrupt things. Pam says, I can't wait to watch our version of the Nuremberg trials. Yeah, people keep saying that. I suspect that's true, that we'll have something like that. I mean, if you go back to the Watergate days, they had the hearings and such in Congress on all day, every day. It was in the newspapers. So I suspect it's going to be something that people are going to be very interested in, and the networks will likely broadcast all of these things. It's going to be a rough time for these Trumplefucks who are too afraid to step away from them, and then after the fact, there's going to be no way out for them. And I'm going to enjoy looking at that too. What are your thoughts on the suspension of de minimis? He most likely did it to look tough after losing the tariff ruling. I think this will also be a challenge in court. Amazon and eBay have to be nervous because of this. Yeah. For those of you that don't know what the de minimis thing is, it's something that was set up some time back, and anything under $800 would not be affected by tariffs. So that means you can go to Temu or Amazon or some of these places and get shit shipped to China and not have to pay ridiculous amounts of money. Well, he took that away. So now if you're going to Temu or Amazon or whatever and getting something from China, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Why he did that, I don't know. There's got to be some people, like you say, like Amazon, eBay, Temu, all the rest. They've got to be upset about this, especially with the Temus and even TikTok Shop. What you have to understand, if you look at TikTok Shop, there's a lot of similarities between TikTok Shop and Temu. A lot of crossover products. I mean, I don't even know if Temu runs that for the TikTok Shop. I don't know. But a lot of this stuff comes from China or from overseas. And if that happens, our shit's going to be more expensive. And there isn't going to be any kind of relief just because of the de minimis thing, meaning under $800. You go order a $50 hair dryer and it comes through, it may end up costing you $100, $150. And at that point, there's no reason to buy it. You might as well go down to the department store or buy it online from someplace in this country. All right. What do we got here? Every one of the department heads are at the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, every one of his department heads, well, every one of his members of the cabinet are incompetent, not appropriate for the job. They can't handle the job. Um, and there's a reason for this. Some people think that Donald Trump picked those people specifically to wreck everything. And that may or may be part of it, but understand something else. In his first term, he got some sycophants, to be sure, but they were more confident or competent, like a Rex Tillerson. He was a legitimate, normal human being, save for the fact that he bent over for Donald Trump. But he kind of knew how to run things. And when that first term was over, anybody with any sense or any legitimacy saw what happened to those folks. They either got thrown under the bus, they got fired, they quit themselves, or they got prosecuted and went to jail. So nobody of any real significance wanted these jobs. I mean, there's been several cases where Donald Trump wanted to hire somebody and said, yeah, no, I'm good. Nobody wants to work for Donald Trump. They know exactly what's going to happen, and it's not going to go well. So, um, Spacer says Amazon relies on third-party sellers. You would think Bezos would be pushing back on this. You would think so. And I don't know, maybe he is. But he's the one that supported and bent the knee to Donald Trump. So if it's affecting him, he fucking deserves it. It's everything Donald Trump is doing is working negative on this country. And over and above the Epstein files and over and above these failures and his own mortality, he's got a lot of problems. Things are going to take a sharp turn downward in this country economically. We're looking at a possible bursting of a bubble for the real estate economy. Um, they keep talking about how the stock market is going up, and that's well and good. The stock market was up on November 5th when they voted for Donald Trump. It was at 44,000, so it was up right about where it is now. Donald Trump lost all of it. Then it came back because of his dicking around. But that volatility in the stock market is not a positive thing. That's not good for the economy. And of course, prices are going up. It's funny. I sit there and I watch Donald Trump, and he will say, there's no inflation, prices are going down, jobs are going up, and all of it is a lie. Easily proven lie. Now, is it that Donald Trump is not getting the proper information from his people, that they are just telling him what he wants to hear? Or is he just flat out lying? Not necessarily sure, but I know that Donald Trump's tactic in the past has keep telling the lie and eventually people will believe it. Well, that may work in some circumstances, but if you live on a farm, or if you own a farm, or your family can't pay for medical care or food, he can say whatever the fuck he wants. You know what you're dealing with. Why is Vance taking so many vacations? Is he getting ready for his next role as president? Maybe, but to be honest with you, the reason I think he takes so many vacations is because Donald Trump only has a vice president for one reason, because it was required. He probably doesn't trust or count on Vance very much. Nobody really likes him. Not even the Republicans like him. So he's just kind of riding the bench and going on trips and doing whatever he's doing. Donald Trump may look at it as him getting publicity um, for the administration, but nothing Vance does really works or is beneficial to this country or to the administration. I don't know. A lot of people are worried about the prospect of J.D. Vance becoming president of the United States. I'm not quite as worried. First of all, when we're dealing with problems, I like to deal with the biggest problem, get that out of the way, then worry about the next problem. At this point, what needs to be done is we need to cut the head off the snake. Now, Donnie Trump may do that for us with his own health conditions. It's going to be interesting to see how that progresses because he's only going to be able to hide it so long if, in fact, he is sick. We know he's got the bruises on his hands. His face looks a little fucked up. His ankles are big. These are all signs of problems, big problems. I know this because I had a father who had similar circumstances, the big legs, the big ankles, the spots and stuff. He had trouble with his kidneys, I believe. I think he had to take dialysis at some point. You have to wonder if Donald Trump isn't on some kind of dialysis. You know, when you drink Diet Coke and eat McDonald's every day, that takes its toll on your liver and your kidneys. And Donald Trump probably is not cutting back at this point. I heard Trump is considering sending American private military to Ukraine for a long-term peace plan. I worry that it's a bad thing for Ukraine because how can they trust these private military firms? Yeah, I doubt he's going to do that. You remember they were talking about the deal that Russia was going to make that Russia never agreed on, Article 5 thing. And what that meant would be there would be European troops in Ukraine. Um, and Vladimir Putin was dead set against that. We don't want any troops in Ukraine. No way. I'm not cutting that deal. So the idea to send American troops in there probably isn't any more appetizing for Vladimir Putin. Put it this way, Vladimir Putin's just playing Donald Trump. There is not going to be peace in Russia and Ukraine. The only way there's going to be peace if there was a way to um, give Ukraine enough weapons to actually beat or push back Russia. That's the only way there's going to be peace. Vladimir Putin does not want peace. He's in much the same situation. Um, he's in much the same situation as Benjamin Netanyahu. Both war criminals. Both aren't hugely possible, and the war ends. They could likely lose their jobs and probably be prosecuted and sent to jail. So neither of these two have any motivation to stop the wars. And Donald Trump doesn't have the wherewithal to cut a deal to get this thing done. Spacer says, what do you make of the RNC and the DNC possibly putting together conventions for the midterms? Really telling how unpopular the status quo politics on Democrats and the craziness with Republicans. Yeah. You know, I think that's a red flag that should have been noticed back in 2016. Donald Trump, when he started running for president, nobody took him seriously. He was an absolute joke. Then he got the nomination, which was crazy. Nobody expected that. And then he got elected. How the fuck did that happen? Well, I'll tell you how it happens. People are sick and tired of business as usual when it comes to politics. They're tired of establishment politics. And why is that? Because they're worried about putting money in their pockets and not doing the work for the middle class and the poor class. People are tired of it. You can have the stock market going sky high, but if people can't afford rent and they can't afford dinner, they're going to be pissed. And that's where they were on November 5th. The Democrats and Republicans are maybe taking notice that people are tired of their shit, and justifiably so. Whether conventions are a good idea or not, I don't know. Just how about this, Democrats? You take a look at the Republicans. Let them burn themselves down. They're doing quite a good job of that. How about you just change your direction and start working for the people instead of playing this, I'm above it all. I'm going to turn the other cheek. Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, and everybody else that's fighting back, they're doing the one thing, not only that needs to be done, what the people of this country want them to do. So take note, you fucked up in that first 2016 election. You didn't notice the red flag. Here's some more red flags, dumb fucks. So decide to change things up. Bud Jones, when do we invade Venezuela? I doubt they're going to invade Venezuela. You got to understand how Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is a pussy-ass bitch, and you know that. He's big on threats, but not much in substance. You know, it's like sending ships over toward Russia or sending ships now to Venezuela. He's trying to intimidate people. That's all Donald Trump ever does. It's all about intimidation. If someone pushes back and wants to fight with him, well, then he runs away like a little pussy-ass bitch. I don't think they're going to invade Venezuela, but if they do, that's going to be a mess for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Hope that doesn't happen. Wouldn't surprise me if it does. But if you rationalize it out, I don't think he's going to invade Venezuela. He may try it, given that he's not mentally aware anymore. But hopefully, people around him would stop him from doing something fucking stupid. Christine says, just got here, so you think he is still alive? Are they doing a weekend at Bernie's? I don't actually know for sure, and anybody who comes out here and says, "I'm a psychic, I know stuff, I have an inside track," don't listen to them, they're full of shit. Um, I suspect he's still alive, but I suspect he's having some problems. I mean, the evidence would be that Donald Trump has never seen a camera he doesn't like. He loves to sit up and talk in front of the camera, even at points where he doesn't need to. When he's meeting um, world leaders, he wants to sit in a press conference and meet with the press. He has a cabinet meeting and have everybody around him fawning over him. He's got to have a camera in front of him. Doesn't it seem strange that in the last week or so that there's been no cameras in his face? Why is that? Is he getting sensitive about his hands? Or is there something worse? Did he have a stroke? Whatever. I don't know. I think he's probably alive. I think he's probably in trouble. But Donald Trump claims he's not. He said, never felt better in my life. Also, D.C. is crime-free. President DJT. That's what he put out in Truth Social tonight. Kind of short for Donald Trump. He isn't typically doing that sort of thing. But, I got a fix for the Republicans. It's a very easy thing to do for Donald Trump when he could set aside all our concerns about his mortal health. All he has to do is tomorrow make a call. He'll have a camera of all the networks and streamers in front of him in 10 minutes. And all he has to do is sit at the Resolute desk, look at the cameras and say, hey, listen, this is a Labor Day weekend. I want to wish you all a happy Labor Day. I hope all is going well and the future looks bright. From President Donald J. Trump. That's all you got to do. Do that. Take 20 seconds, 30 seconds, put out that greeting to the public, and everybody will say, see, he looks good. But will he do it? No, he won't do it because he's a pussy-ass bitch. That's why. What do you think of the friendship evolving between Russia, China, and North Korea? I don't think it's a positive thing. You'd expect it given what's going on with Donald Trump. I'm worried about all the relationships that are being created right now. It's not just Russia, China, and North Korea. It's the other countries that will deal with China now and Venezuela and Colombia and whatever. People are having to figure out what to do instead of going to the United States. So they're going to go to those places for trade or for safety or for military reasons. And what's going to happen is when everybody else is elsewhere and we're this isolated nation, something the Republicans love, we're going to find ourselves in a very difficult situation. And then when it's all done, it's going to be a lot of work to reconnect with these people if we can at all. The damage Donald Trump is doing is immense. And if you think we're going to be able to fix it in short order after Donald Trump's gone, that's not going to be like that. It's going to take some time. James says Vance is inexperienced for any role in the White House. He only had 2 years' experience in government before becoming vice president. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He was a senator for 2 years and had no business doing that. Then he became vice president. He's been vice president for 8 months. So this fucker doesn't know anything. You had people want to talk about Kamala not having experience. Probably the most experienced candidate for president ever. And now you want to put J.D. Vance in there? Put it this way, J.D. Vance isn't as old as Donald Trump. He doesn't have dementia, but he's not the sharpest cat in the world. He says some stupid stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see when he takes over. I don't think Donald Trump lasts for the full term, no question about that. I'm questioning whether he'll even make it to the midterms at this point. keep my fingers crossed on that. Um, Shane McGrody says, "Why are warships off the coast of Venezuela?" That's a good question. I don't know if anybody has a good answer to that. I think it has something to do with drugs, and Donald Trump thinks or says the drugs are coming from Venezuela, so he's there to try to intimidate them. But the most important thing you got to remember about Donald Trump, everything he does, he fucks up. So I don't know what's going to go on with that, but I do know this: whatever Donald Trump is doing down there, it will get fucked up. There's no question. Taco is not a good deal maker. I work with some people that were. He can get the meeting, but he can't close the deal. He went to North Korea and got what? He meets with Putin in Alaska and got nothing. Hell, he lost money as the house in Atlantic City. This guy's no salesperson. He's afraid to ask for signatures. He never closes a deal. You're absolutely right about that. That's the ironic thing that Donald Trump claims to be this great deal maker, but he's bankrupt 6 fucking companies. He's been a failure at everything he does. I've been a middleman for a time or two in my career, and I know a little bit about negotiations. And the thing about negotiations, you've got to be able to make sure that everybody wins in that situation so that you can continue the future deals. Anytime one person decides to win, and they do perceive themselves as winning and somebody losing in that negotiation, future deals are off. And that's where Donald Trump has the problem. He doesn't understand the idea of a win-win situation. He's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and that's why he can't negotiate in these deals with Russia, North Korea, or any of this shit. These people are smarter than he is by a long shot. They also know how to manipulate him. All you have to do is tell him he's a genius, and they'll do whatever they say. Spacer says, "I also hate how the mass media is assuming people leaving the Democratic Party are automatically becoming Republicans. The mass media is only good at hyping up the Republicans." Yeah, the mass media is done. We talked about accountability after Donald Trump is gone. There's a lot of people that are going to be accountable for siding with Donald Trump. The mainstream media is going to have some problems too. Nobody trusts them, from CBS and 60 Minutes all the way down to MSNBC, Fox News, OAN. Nobody trusts any mainstream media. And when this is all done and Donald Trump isn't putting on his little dancing monkey show, they're going to be desperate for fucking viewership. And you know what? The vast majority of people are not going to want to hear the shit that they've been spewing out thus far. And when Donald Trump's gone, their dancing monkey's gone, and they're in fucking trouble. I think we're going to see a dramatic change in mainstream media, especially the news. I think more people are going to go to independent news. We're already seeing that. They sold their souls to the devil, and when the devil goes, he's taking their souls with him. I get the movement against establishment, but they picked a con man. Oh, yeah, they made a horrible choice. But that tells you something, doesn't it? They were so desperate to get away from establishment that they took a flyer on a guy they knew nothing about. They said, "Wow, how bad could it be?" Well, you found out how bad it could be, and then you dumb fucks voted for him again. There's no accounting for stupid in this country. We have an epidemic of stupid in this country, and I don't even know how you get around that. It's just crazy. Let's see. Well, we'll move on up. I read that Bernie is going to introduce a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizen United. That would be great. I don't think it will pass because the Republicans are still in control. But I'm sure they're doing it to set the precedent so that when they do get power, they can actually do that. But Citizens United needs to be overturned. That is one of the biggest problems we have in this country and one of the reasons we're in this position right now. Spacer says, "I'm really proud of Mayor Brandon Johnson. More guts than Karen Bass. This is why Trump fears Mondani becoming mayor." Oh, yeah. Donald Trump's in fear of Brandon Johnson because he's pushing back. Mondani, because he's pushing back. Remember, he's a fucking bully. He's all about intimidation and trying to get people to bend and scrape. But when they don't do that, he doesn't know what to do because he's a fucking coward. So you're absolutely right. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, we keep hearing that they are going to send troops to Chicago this coming week. It'll be interesting to see if they do. But Donald Trump says a lot of things. He makes a lot of threats. And then sometimes it gets waylaid because somebody's a little tougher than he is. He's going to have to deal with Pritzker. He's going to have to deal with Johnson. And they're not having it. They made some good points. We're not going to allow the police to work with them. And if there's any crimes committed, they will be arrested and prosecuted. This could be a real mess in Chicago, not only because Pritzker and Brandon Johnson aren't willing to cave to this guy. It's going to be interesting to see the reaction of the citizens of Chicago. Depending on where they go in Chicago, they could run into some significant shit. Let's see here. Continuing in, Mike, Trump can't put out a civilized holiday greeting without bad-mouthing the Democrats. Well, you're absolutely right about that, but I'd take that. Donnie, just get in front of the camera. Show us your face. Show us your corpulent orange head and that sphincter-like mouth. Show us that you're okay. But why won't you do it? Boston Dave says, it's astounding that people who love him cannot realize how much less safe, how weak we are, and economically how damaged we are from all the Trump actions. Yeah, that is difficult. I mean, it's pretty blatant. It's in our face. People are suffering as we speak, and they still want to support this guy. I don't know if it's because of the cult of personality. I don't know if it's that these people refuse to admit they're wrong, or they just want to continue owning the libtards. Well, how is owning the libtards working now when your farm is closing down, or you can't afford food, or you can't get medical care? I hope that's all worth it to you, dumb fucks, because you know what? It's going to get fucking worse. Janice says, if we don't get the usual holiday post, Democrats are losers, then something's definitely up. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Janice. Everything Trump touches dies. Absolutely. Uh, Vincent Johnny says, you think America not joining the ICC is because they think Americans facing proper consequences in international law because a lot of military-based soldiers cause quite a bit of crimes in overseas bases. Well, I hadn't thought about that, but that makes some sense. I mean, a lot of people over the years have thought of us as the heroes, the above it all. We're very professional and we do all the right things. But I got to tell you, over the years, there's been some pretty fucked up stuff that our military has done in other countries. You're not going to hear about it, but we can go as far back as um, the Vietnam War. Remember Lieutenant Calley and the My Lai massacre? Yeah, we've done some fucked up shit, and that you may be onto something there. Why they don't want to put their military at risk for war crimes. The warships are just a distraction for this week's Epstein's victims' testimony in Congress. Yeah, all of this may be just a distraction. Now, a lot of people will go and say, oh, this big thing is just a distraction. And usually I will say, not everything is a distraction and everything's just a fucking mess because that's how Donald Trump does things. But you're right about the Epstein thing. That's interesting because Congress comes back this week, the House of Representatives. Now, you remember they were talking hot and heavy about Jeffrey Epstein and um, Mike Powerbottom Johnson said, let's take a vacation for 6 weeks. Maybe they'll forget about Epstein. Well, they weren't going to forget about Epstein. You haven't heard about it as much in the news because they're on vacation and nobody's pushing that. And a lot of people think, well, Donald Trump did it. He distracted from Jeffrey Epstein. No, he didn't. Because this week's going to be a fucking mess, and it's going to be fired up again this week. Because when they get back into the House of Representatives, There are people on the Democratic and Republican side trying to force through a bill that would force them to release the evidence on Jeffrey Epstein. And if that weren't enough, Ro Khanna and I think Massey are having a um, press event on the steps of the Capitol on Wednesday. And they are going to have victims there testifying in what happened to them. 10 of them. That's going to be a long event, and that's going to be a highly covered event, and it's all going to be whipping up Jeffrey Epstein again. So if you thought they got away with it, you thought they distracted from it, no, wait till this week goes through. It's going to be back up in the front lines and on the front of the papers, and people are going to be talking about it quite a lot. And Donald Trump is going to go fucking nuts if his failing body doesn't kill him. The fright of being exposed through the Jeffrey Epstein thing is going to drive him nuts. There's something else about Epstein that you need to know. Remember when that story came out where Donald Trump wrote a page in a birthday book? Remember that? Donald Trump says, that's not real. That's a hoax. I didn't do that. I don't write shit like that. That wasn't me. Well, guess what? It was announced that the Epstein estate is going to release that book to the Democrats in Congress. Going to release that book. So the book will be actually physically fucking there. And they're going to release some other documents too. This has got to make Donald Trump shit his pants over and above what else makes him shit his pants. A real strong negotiator would tell Putin, you need to agree to the ceasefire now or we start a process to bring Ukraine into NATO. That's the only opportunity for Russia to keep you out of NATO. Good point. Give them a bunch of weapons, long-range missiles, and say we're going to put them in NATO. That's the only thing that Vladimir Putin's going to do. Respect is somebody being tough with him. I was considering leaving the Democratic Party, but it would become a left-leaning independent. Certainly not turn Republican. Somebody else said this. People think that if the Democrats are not popular, then they're actually moving to the Republican Party. That's not true. They're living through a Republican Party rule right now, and they aren't liking it very much. But they're not liking the Democrats either. Here's what I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking the whole two-party system, it won't go away, but it's getting toward its expiration date. Consider this. Donald Trump wins the presidency under the Republican flag, right? He's not a Republican. He's not even a fucking conservative. But the Republicans took him on and he won the presidency. What caused Donald Trump to win? Because he was a Republican? Well, maybe somewhat. But we're in a different world now. We're in a world of influencers and people spewing stuff like Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is the top prospect for the 2028 nomination for the Democrats right now because he's making the noise. This is another thing that Democrats have to understand. This is a different world. This isn't like politics as usual. You got to build a candidate. You've got to create a brand. You've got to get people behind this person and liking this guy. One time somebody said that presidential elections aren't popularity contests. Fuck, they aren't. That's exactly what they are. So they need to build candidates. They may not support the Democrats in general, but they'll support a candidate that they like. And what they like about candidates is when they fight. Learn a fucking lesson here, Democrats, because Gavin Newsom is teaching you a master's class. John Joseph Moran, they badmouth the Democrats, but we are the only ones trying. John, I'm going to tell you this right now. People want to keep this as a Democrat-Republican fight, and we're way beyond that now because we got problems in the Democratic Party, a lot of problems in the Republican Party. This isn't about Democrats and Republicans anymore. This is about right and wrong, truth and lies, legitimacy and illegitimacy. That's what this is about, right and wrong. That's all you have to worry about. Who's right, who's wrong, who's best for us. All right, Spacer says, I see a ton of countries jumping on board to recognize Palestine. Ken Martin had an amendment for the Democratic Party on the floor to recognize Palestine. It didn't be passed because of AIPAC, of course, but do you think the tide will eventually turn that way? I will. I saw Will saying that abandoned Biden Kamala voters are researching for the midterms. Yeah, Israel's in a bad situation. You know, people say, be careful what you say about the Israeli thing, because people will call you anti Semitic or not follow you. Don't give a fuck. Do not give a fuck about that. Here's the deal Israel is in the same situation we are. The people of Israel, the country of Israel, have no problems with them, but their government, their leader, fucking criminal. Now, I can say this because I live in a country that has the same fucking thing. Americans are good people, generally speaking, but we've got criminals at the top. Therein lies the problem. And people are getting tired of what's going on in Gaza. I mean, it doesn't stop there. There is a genocide going there, and all those far left people that were complaining about Joe Biden, I just want you to know this. If you didn't vote for Joe Biden and you voted for Donald Trump because you thought it'd be better for the Palestinians, guess what? Now the blood is on your hands, motherfuckers, and you deserve it. I hate to see these people suffering in Gaza, but we tried. We tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. So the blood is on your hands. Have you heard the latest? Donald Trump had said this one time earlier, and nobody thought it would be real. But now they're genuinely talking about kicking everybody out of Gaza and building like a fucking resort that the U.S. will control. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you expected? Because you fucked up. You did the wrong thing. Rose says the south side of Chicago is a pretty tough with gangs running the show. It could be a bloodbath between gangs and the military. Yeah. I don't know. The one thing about these pussy ass bitches, they don't go to the tough areas. They go to the soft target where you got moms and grandmas and kids. They're pretty weak. They're pretty much cowards. But Chicago's a different type of town, though. People don't fuck around there. Even the people that aren't in the gang, they're not going to put up with too much shit. Bruce Oster says, love what you do, Boomer. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. DNC Chair Ken Martin shutting down resolution advocating for the Palestinian state and ceasefire and sending munitions to Israel. Don't forget they ousted David Hogg of the DNC. Yeah, I'm aware. And this is one of the problems that our politicians have. It's not just Republicans; it's Democrats. It goes back to the Citizens United thing where we got all this money going through Congress. AIPAC is one of those PACs that put a lot of money, not just in Republicans' pockets, but in Democrats' pockets. This is why um, um, Hakeem Jeffries won't support Mondani in New York because AIPAC would stop paying him money. That's why. That's why other Democrats are having troubles with Mondani. And what's Mondani really saying? Let's get money back to the middle class. Let's get money to the poor. Let's do some good things for the people of my town. Why are the Democrats against that? Why are the Democrats fucking around with this thing? I mean, the Democrats are better than Republicans. There's no question. We've got to get the Republicans out, the Democrats in. Okay, so we got the first step done. But once the Democrats are in, we got to put the foot to the metal and make sure they're doing the right things too. I mean, keep in mind, they overturned Roe v. Wade, but the Democrats could have codified Roe v. Wade back when. Why didn't they? Why didn't they do that? We got some problems on both sides. Spacer says it's like the United Nations. Nobody takes that seriously. And I was reading that they were contemplating moving the headquarters out of New York to Kenya. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that shit. Why would you want to come to New York if we've got all these immigration issues and ICE maybe walks into the fucking walks into the United Nations and starts hauling people out? You're going to see a lot of people abandoning the United States. We won't be the central point anymore. And I can't blame people at this point. Absolutely can't blame them. Who could Vance choose as his VP? Could it be racist guy? Make it, um, hold on a second here. Racist guy working behind the scenes. Miller, I think, is in his. It depends on what happens here. Now, keep in mind, I was talking about this with Will yesterday. And if I was a Republican, knowing how badly Donald Trump screwed things, uh, knowing how bad um, Trump screwed things up, they may want to try to reset things, try to get back to a normal Republican Party so they don't get absolutely wiped out in 2026 or 2028. They could do that. Nobody likes J.D. Vance. I don't think the Republicans even like J.D. Vance. Here's an interesting thought. Comes based out of nothing, just based on what I see. Brian Kemp. He was going to run for the Senate against John Ossoff. Would be a likely candidate. It would be a good fight, and he could even win. Brian Kemp said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And some people might think, well, it's because he's going to run for president in 2028, and that's distinctly possible. But think about this. Brian Kemp has bent over to Donald Trump in some ways, but he's also pushed back. He's more of a mainstream, normal Republican. He has his problems, but he's more mainstream, certainly than J.D. Vance. And if the Republicans want to reset this and get things going better before the elections, what if they force J.D. Vance to put Brian Kemp as a VP? Take a little time more and then impeach J.D. Vance, and now you got an entirely different guy as president for the remaining 2 years. I'm not saying they're thinking of doing that, but if I'm a Republican, knowing I'm going to need to redeem myself and my party after Donald Trump is no more, that may be a way to do it. Or he could just pick a racist motherfucker. That's true too. Boston Day, people complained about us giving weapons to Ukraine. That was an economic boost to the U.S. defense contractors, continued to weaken Russia, and the U.S. could have played a big role in rebuilding Ukraine, similar to the Marshall Plan after WW2. This would have been a huge win for specifically the U.S. and the West. Trump has pissed that all away. There's another reason why we should give money to Ukraine, because we signed an agreement to fucking do it. I don't know if you remember this. This was back in the 90s. Remember when Russia broke apart? It was the Soviet Union that it broke apart, and all these countries went out and became independent. Ukraine was one of them. You know what happened in Ukraine when they broke apart? There were several nuclear weapons in Ukraine left over from the Soviet Union. So everybody's going, holy fuck, we got this small country with all these nuclear weapons. So Russia, Bill Clinton, and whoever was in charge of Russia, I don't know if it was Gorbachev or whoever the fuck it was. Maybe it was Yeltsin. I don't know, whoever it was. But Russia and America went to Ukraine and said, listen, we can't allow you to have these nuclear weapons. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. You get rid of the nuclear weapons, and America and Russia will make sure you're completely protected. We'll take care of you if anything happens. That's what they said. That's the agreement they signed. All these years later, Russia, who signed off on that deal, attacks Ukraine. America, who signed off on that deal, now has Donald Trump, and they're going, I don't know if we want to help you. Why sign agreements if you can't trust anybody? You can't trust Putin. You can't trust Donald Trump. And if you sign a deal 30 years ago, you can't count on it being upheld 30 years later because you don't know what dumb fucks will be running their respective respective countries. The far left is often just as bad as the far right. I'd have to agree with you. I'd have to agree because they want what they want it now, and they aren't willing to adjust for it. And the thing about politics is you're not going to get everything you want every time you vote. So instead of just pouting, what you should do is pick the closest to what you want and then get a little closer the next time and the next time. As long as you would have voted for Kamala Harris, at least you had the prospect of getting to where you want. You vote for Donald Trump, you'll never get there. So it's a stupid move nonetheless. Incandescent Light says purity tests are why we lost the past election. Democrats need to stop acting like pouty babies over this stuff. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're not in a political debate anymore. We're in a street fight, and people are angry about what we do, and we had the whole situation where somebody's whining about that some liberal uh, influencers are getting paid by some dark money. I don't even know if that's true. I don't care. If you're out here on the social media and you're getting paid from somebody, cool. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. Because it's like the mainstream media. As we're watching what we're seeing, we have to discern what is true to us. And as I've told people before, don't believe anybody in mainstream media or social media. That said, I do watch both to a certain extent. If I see a story that interests me, I don't trust them. I don't trust anybody out here. I say, okay, that's an interesting story. And then I go to reasonable sources like NPR, AP, BBC, or even Huffington Post, maybe even Raw Story. I can get the real facts there. Then I can determine whether it's real or not, and then I can talk about it. Nori says, love your work here. Thank you. People keep smashing the hearts here on the screen. Helps more to listen. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Democrats deal. Not sure what you mean there. Who would ever want to go to Gaza if Trump ever made some kind of resort? It would be a constant target for all the countries in the area, rightfully so. We have no business kicking an entire population out of their home. It's unconscionable, immoral, and illegal. You make an excellent point. We know this area of the world is volatile. It's a highly religious thing. We have Palestinians, we have Muslims, we have the Israelis and the Jews. This fight that's going on in Gaza, it's been going on for fucking decades. I was born on 1960, and they were fighting these wars at different times in my entire life. So this isn't a new event. It just happens that we now have an American president who is complicit. Incandescent light, we have to hold the Dems' feet to the fire once in power to get real things done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's two things that people do when they win. They get lazy and they go, oh, we can relax now for a couple of years. And no, bitches, you got to get on your fucking bicycle and start getting things done the moment you get power. And if you get power and you do nothing, then you should be gone. And we as um, a constituency needs to make sure that's true. And as you say, we've got to hold their feet to the fire. Incandescent light, he won't go outside of the Heritage Foundation. Incidentally, how do we punish that group? We need to figure it out. Well, there's no doubt some people committing crimes within that group. I mean, keep in mind, a number of those members of that group are now in the cabinet or in the administration at least. There's definitely going to be some punishment laid out eventually because there are crimes and corruption being committed. With the DOJ we currently have and Donald Trump is president, nobody's going to do anything. But just because justice is delayed, that doesn't mean justice won't happen. It'll happen once these idiots are out of control, and there'll be, like Willis said, a reckoning, so to speak. Kurt says, amen, Dems need to quit looking for a perfect candidate, some middle-of-the-road moderate that can appeal to moderate GOP voters. Shut up. Yeah, I think we look for a fighter in the middle class, preferably one with military background and experience in government. Quit looking for a perfect candidate. I couldn't agree more. There isn't a perfect candidate, and we do need a fighter. This middle-of-the-road stuff that Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and Pelosi want, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. And hopefully people have learned a lesson on November 5th because that's what they tried to do. They tried to do business as usual, tried to take the high road. Look, we're in a street fight now. There are no rules in a street fight. Donald Trump has proven there's no rule of law anymore. So for us to comply with those laws while the other side doesn't is like asking to get your ass kicked. I'm sorry if it sounds distasteful or dishonest, but we're in a fight now. If you're in a fight, a street fight, and there's a rock sitting there, you better pick it up before they do, because I guarantee you they'll pick it up. Does it feel like we're living in Twilight Zone? Yeah, it does. It really does. And, and I've said this before. People have said to me, You don't admit when you're wrong." Oh, I always admit when I'm wrong. And where I was wrong was when Donald Trump was elected, I tried to comfort myself by saying, well, it could get crazy, but we've got Republicans that would never let anything get out of hand. The Democrats would do something, they'd never let it get out of hand. The courts, the rules, the norms and stuff. I thought there would be some guardrails there. Fucking totally wrong. No guardrails, no guardrails at all. So if there's no laws and no guardrails, let's not just let the Republicans benefit from that. We need to benefit from that. Again, this isn't about politics or government anymore. It's right and wrong. Democracy opposed to authoritarianism. It's a fucking fight, and we do whatever we have to do to win it. It seemed like that Trump backed out of the AUKUS agreement. Now the UK and Australia are creating the next-gen submarines and monitoring the Asian region without us. China knows now that they don't have a strong-armed Taiwan, Japan, or Philippines. South Korea saw him the other day, and they laughed. Yeah, that's one thing you have to understand, and Gavin Newsom has said that too. He's talked to a number of world leaders, and he said people are laughing at him. People are mocking him. He's a joke. And if Donald Trump actually understand that, that would crush him because as a narcissist, his image and how people perceive him is the most important thing. And that's why it's important, like for Gavin Newsom and all of us, to make fun of this stupid orange motherfucker because that's the thing that's going to get in his head, cause him to crash out and maybe have a stroke and keel over. Dems don't take the foot off the far right's ass. Then when you're in office, don't take your foot off the gas. You're absolutely right. And that's one thing I've learned about bullies. You got to, um, if you fight back against a bully and you knock them down, you really have to make sure you keep them down, keep them controlled because they will come back like cancer and attack you again. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right and fucking end it. We don't need to just wound them. We need to mortally end this whole movement. Check out the Jolly Good Ginger causing good trouble in DC. I've seen it. A lot of respect for the guy to go out there and stir things up, get in the middle of it, put himself at risk. Yeah, I do watch him, and he's doing a great job. What weird ads have been seeing on YouTube for me in Canada in this weird AI splice video about Mark Carney advocating for crypto and AI, a weird article about former NDP leader getting assaulted even though he was not. Um, these ads come from South Korea. Yeah, the AI thing is getting a little bit out of hand, and unfortunately, we have enough stupid people who don't understand and can't recognize what's AI and what's real. Boston Dave says the crazy thing is that there are Republicans indicating they're not fighting back because they're afraid. However, if they actually did fight back like normal Republicans of years past, we'd probably have a Department of Justice who would find and prosecute the people making threats against public officials. You're absolutely right. Even during Watergate, we had Republicans that pushed back against Richard Nixon. They're the ones that told him, you need to fucking resign. You would never see that in this world. What else here? I can't fathom why MAGA doesn't seem to realize that what is going on right now is the tyranny um, that their whole 2A existence is built on. They are weak. And no question, it is amazing that they don't see it. I don't quite get it. What are your thoughts about Vance meeting Peter Thiel? I think they're going to get Trump out. The idea that there might be something going on in the background, not surprising. I mean, we know that Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and and JD Vance are kind of they've always been thick as thieves. The tech bros maybe plotting behind Donald Trump would not surprise me in the least. In fact, I kind of expect it. Spacer says, Vincent, there are many deepfake accounts. Like recently, there was a thing about AOC voting against ending arming Israel. You're right. Have you been seeing the Republican political ads in Minnesota yet? The ones in Ohio say, thank your Republican representative for voting for the BBB, and the one with Buddy Carter, Will talked about. I watched, just a cry for substance. Yeah. I think people are getting tired of the chaos, and they're getting tired of the adversarial nature of these things. People just want to live their life. They want to have enough money to live, pay their rent, eat, buy their kids presents for Christmas, and all of that is going by the wayside in what's going on now. Republicans can do all kinds of advertising they want, but people are feeling real effects, and that advertising won't have an impact if people are struggling. I wish there was something we could do about SCOTUS once the Dems take control. Hopeful thinking. Well, there are some things we can do. We get the House, the Senate, and a president. We can stack that fucking court. Add 4 more judges. Get 13 judges, which would make sense. There are 13 different districts. So to add 4 more wouldn't be surprising. And they can do something about it. Joe Biden wasn't willing to do it. We needed the Congress to be able to do it, and we may very well be in that position. So hopefully, we can do something about it. Do you think Murdoch is going to release more information, drip by drip? Uh, I have thought that all along, because he may be one of the people behind trying to take Donald Trump down too. I have thought that. I haven't seen much lately, but would not be surprised if that happens. B Action Jackson. Hi, Mike. I think the GOP has been on a downhill slide for a long time. If we listen to ideological conservatives, they've been admitting to dark ideologic behaviors in their party. Refer to H.W. Bush autobiography. Trump fits right in. He seized the opportunity. He got their number. Well, here's the thing. It's known, data has shown that come 2028, it's always been boomers, maybe Gen X, that have been the vast majority of the voters in this country. Well, come 2028, the tide will turn, and it'll be more so millennials and Gen Z. And when that happens, the Republicans know they're in trouble. I mean, there are some Gen Z and millennials that would vote Republican for whatever stupid fucking reason, but they would, but not enough. In 2028, the Republicans could get buried just based on them being Republicans. So they're kind of trying to grasp for as much hold as they can get because they know the end is near. Peter Thiel is a horrific person. I'm more concerned about that guy and Curtis Yarvin than just about anything. Yeah, both of them are freakish clowns. They're goofballs. They have weird ideas and they are dangerous. You're absolutely right. But if we do this right, they'll be marginalized in the end too. They may have money, but they won't have the freedom that they have now. All right. I'm excited for Iowa. Ernst is out. Hopefully they go for a Democrat. There is also an independent in Nebraska for Senate. Hopefully the stress in the state is bad enough to push them towards it. I'm also wondering what direction Susan Collins will take, either the moderate Republican again, or will she or she will seek a hand from Trump. Yeah, I don't know what she's going to do in that case. The woman is 150 years old. She seems a little shaky. I think she should retire at this point because she's obviously not well liked in Maine. Also, the weird conservative push ads from Canada tax firm from bashing Mark Carney, weird AI generated photos, 2 weird photos of people with glasses referencing Pierre Poilievre wearing glasses. Yeah. Stephen Miller is a monster as well. Yeah, he's a creepy motherfucker, and he is a monster. He'll get his due. He'll get his due. The reckoning is coming, and he'd probably be at the top of the list of people being investigated and prosecuted. Exactly. The pendulum always swings. Can't wait for it. I'm old like you. Yeah, we are old. There is no question about it. Mike Duggan is running for Michigan governor as independent. Thoughts? I don't know much about Mike Duggan at all. I'll have to look into that. Um, but the more independents and the more Democrats we get, the better off any state is. Michigan's a big state. Democrats should be able to win that. Um, I don't know much about Mike Duggan, but I will. I will look into it. I promise. Miller is running the show. Yeah, that's how it would seem, doesn't it? Donald Trump's not cognitive enough to make any decisions or have any strategy, so it's got to be coming from somewhere. And that creepy motherfucker looks like the likely suspect. I sure hope we can get the majority of the Senate so we can impeach some Supreme Court justices. Yeah, exactly. That's distinctly possible. If we get the majority in the House, Donald Trump will be impeached. If we get a majority in the Senate, he could theoretically be kicked out too, assuming he's still alive. And I don't know that he'll be around by that point. But maybe we can impeach J.D. Vance too. That wouldn't be a bad idea. I hope that the spies in Greenland and Trump funding the far-right separatist movement in Alberta as well as start to get more coverage. That's just unbelievable that they were undermining our own allies. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we have a big situation going on in Greenland, and of course, our media doesn't really talk about it. Apparently, the Trump administration sent some people up to Greenland to knock on doors and try to stir them up to try to get support for becoming a state or coming under the control of the United States. The only problem is the dumb fucks got caught, and that is essentially espionage. These people were caught as spies in Greenland, and Denmark, who controls Greenland, ain't fucking happy about it. And there are possibilities. Of, of, of there are possibilities of what am I trying to say? Of some trials and some prosecutions, but guess what? Pam Bondi doesn't have anything to say about it because it's likely to be international crimes, which will be interesting. Any plans for a podcast with Jay or Trevor? I have nothing set up at this point, but anybody who wants to come on the show, all you have to do is email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Tell me you want to come on. We'll set it up and you can come on. That means any of you motherfuckers can do this too. Anybody out there that's listening, Spacer, for example, you talk a lot, Spacer. You should be on the show. All you have to do is hit me up at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Tell me you want to come on and we'll work something out. Spacer says Denmark recalled the ambassador, I think, and Kosher got in trouble in France. Would not be surprised. How do you think Pritzker in Illinois is going to keep back the ICE agents? I don't know. I don't know what they legitimately can do. I'm not exactly sure, but it'll be a lot more than what we're seeing in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a different situation. It's not a state. It doesn't have a governor. Donald Trump and the Pentagon control the National Guard. So that's easy pickings for Donald Trump and the feds there. Going into Illinois, that's going to be a different deal. Illinois is not some shitty little state that has no money and no power. They've got a great governor. Chicago's got a great mayor. And the people of that state are strong-minded folks. It's not going to be an easy deal. He keeps saying he's going to go in there next week. It would not surprise me if he didn't. Because again, Donald Trump is big on making threats, but he doesn't have a lot of substance. So he may puss out. I hope he does, because we don't need that kind of mess in Chicago. I'm in Minneapolis, not that far from Chicago. I have some relatives in Chicago. I don't want to see that happening. I'm afraid it could get very ugly at that point because people are just not going to stand for it. It's not going to be like Washington, D.C. All right, we are coming to the end here. I want to thank you all for joining me and taking the time to talk. You make doing this so much easier. I appreciate it immensely. you didn't hear the whole live, we're going to be running it as the podcast. You can get the Rational Boomer podcast on YouTube. You can get it on Spotify, both video and audio on Spotify. So please check it out. We're there every day. Tomorrow, I think I'm talking to Tony from South Carolina. So that should be interesting. He's always got a great show. Boston Dave says, thanks again, Mike. Great show as always. Thank you. Rose, thank you. Stay well, you too. And we will talk to you again very soon. Thanks to all of you for listening, taking the time. Hope you have a great day, a great Labor Day. Have fun. Try to get your mind off politics a little bit after this show and just enjoy yourself and enjoy your families. So have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.